David, how you doing today? Figured for today's video I'd talk a little bit about how and what I started drinking. Well, not how I started drinking, but what kind of spurred me on as to whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, bourbon, American whiskeys in general. So stay tuned and you'll learn a little bit about my personal history with American whiskeys.
Go swimming and not get wet. Hi, let's go gamble on a sucker bet. Let's go swim, let's not get wet. Let's go gamble on a sucker bet. Baby, get out of my life, don't go yet.
So, to start off with, I'm a big fan, or was a big fan, of the James Bond films. You know, the classic ones, not what they're putting out today, but those classic ones with Sean Connery and Roger Moore, and yes, George Lazenby, who I got to meet some years ago. So yes, I got to meet a real James Bond. And no matter what you think about the movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service or George Lazenby in general, he was James Bond, even if it was for one movie. But regardless, so I started, because of that, I was influenced in drinking vodka and having a vodka martini. And then once I found out what the recipe was for a Vesper martini in the novel Casino Royale, I went with that. But along the way too, I realized that Bond drank bourbon and branch water. So bourbon, you know what that is. Branch water is basically just plain water. So instead of putting a tonic or club soda, which is a fizzy water, in a drink, he would just mix it with plain old water. So that got me curious. And of course, the first whiskey I picked up was the legendary Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey, old number 7 itself. And at the time I started drinking this over 20 years ago. It was about, I think, 17 bucks a bottle in New Jersey. And this was what I drank. But I didn't drink it a lot, because to me it just, the taste was just, that's what I thought whiskey, American whiskey was this really harsh stuff that you had to mix with something. And Jack is good for what it is, but to me, you know, it's the brand that you're buying, not so much what's inside of here. Now, I haven't drank Jack Daniel's in over 20 years, but I would imagine it tastes the same as I remember. And just looking to see if it says how long it's been aged for, but I don't see anything in there. But there you go, old number 7 right there. Then I wanted to try something else, so picked up some Jim Beam. And this was, at the time, I'd have to say at the $12 mark. And Jim Beam, to me, tastes exactly like Jack Daniel's. So I can't tell maybe the finer little points of that charcoal filtering at the end, but this was my go-to, Jim Beam. And even, you know, I have an uncle who's now dead, but my Uncle Scotty, who was from Scotland, and the Jim Beam was his go-to whiskey as well. So you think about a Scotsman drinking bourbon, you know, that says something about the old Jim Beam. And even he said at the time, he's like, you know, it tastes just like Jack Daniel's to him. So then I saw, one day I was at the liquor store and saw this, Evan Williams. Black label. I mean, let's just do a comparison here. Black label, white lettering. I mean, even the back label is very similar to the Jack Daniel's. And I think at the time this was $10 a bottle, so it was cheaper than Jim Beam. And I'm like, well, let me try that. And it, to me, tasted like Jim Beam, so why not? Let's go for it. So Evan Williams became my staple drink, my staple whiskey for quite a while. Then, and I'll still drink it. I haven't had it in a while, but you know, if I want something to mix in with some 7-Up, I'll use that. Then, now as you can see behind me, there's a guitar. I play bass guitar. I don't really play the electric guitar, the Strat, except for my own fun. But I was in a band with some friends. This is in the early 2000s, after I married my wife, and they loved Maker's Mark. And you know, then I switched to Maker's Mark. I became a Maker's Mark ambassador. I'm still an ambassador. I don't know what that does for me, but you know, Maker's Mark is a really good bourbon whiskey. I really like it, and I usually have at least 1 or 2 bottles on hand. Down to 1 bottle right now, but as you know, I have a lot of other whiskeys. So, you know, that's there. And then for a while, I went from that and started drinking Bulleit. I love Bulleit bourbon. And even a few years ago, a friend of ours that lives here in Ohio, I was telling her about Bulleit, but she swears by Makers, so we did a blind taste test, and I preferred the Makers. I didn't know which one was which. It just had a smoother flavor. But I still have a soft spot in my heart for Bulleit bourbon, as you can tell from this 1 quart, 1 liter bottle that I keep on hand. And then another one I've tried along the way was, now it's called Rebel, but it was Rebel Yell, and this is another good one. It's in that, to me, that budget range. It's under $20 for a bottle, but it's really good. That's 80 proof, and I like it. It's really good. Something that I would advise or recommend to people as well is if you're in a new area, because pretty much just about every area of the country has distilleries and they make their own bourbons and whiskeys. Try something local. I mean, we used to live in Idaho, and just a couple of miles from us, we lived in the, believe it or not, the Idaho wine region in Caldwell, Idaho. But near us was also a distillery, so I tried their vodka, and of course their whiskey, and their whiskey was really good. It was pretty good. I can't tell you what it's like now because it's been about at least 5 years since I've had it, but that was really good. We'd go into Oregon, and there's distilleries in Oregon. When we'd go to Bend, I would buy stuff that's local to there, and it was good, decent stuff. Washington State, I wanted to, but I think I said in one of my other videos, tax rate, you know, they're charging $25 for a bottle of whiskey, but then after all the taxes, it becomes $50 or $40, at least at the time. But that would be one of the things I would recommend, is just, if you're in a new area, try something local. Get something local, even if it's a souvenir. You can add it to your wall, to your collection. That'd be nice. The other thing is, instead of going, when you go to the store, if let's say Rebel Yell or Maker's Mark is your go-to, try something different. You know, be a little more adventurous, and you know, instead of spending your $25 on Makers, spend your $25 on something else, like a Redneck Riviera, or another item, another product, Old Tub, which I have up here. This is made by the Jim Beam Company, Distilling Company. This was a limited edition only to the distillery. You could only get it there from what I know, but at least here in Ohio, can get it at our local liquor stores, and that's an unfiltered bourbon. So try something new, be a little adventurous. And that was just a little bit about my history with whiskey. So until next time, it's David, and hope to see you soon. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for future whiskey reviews, and hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.